Speed, a major factor in that deadly Amtrak derailment. And while this wasn't a high-speed train, it is raising questions over the push for all these high-speed rail projects across America. Get this, nearly 35 states already receiving a combined $10 billion from the federal government to build them. Now, Hadley, you say this crash shows why we should be very cautious about throwing tax dollars at high-speed rails across America. Why?
I'm not against high-speed rail. I think it can be a safe and effective form of transportation, but I'm against government-run high-speed rail because the government doesn't do a very good job determining what's profitable and what's cost-effective. This should be an arena where the private sector can lead, and we don't see a lot of investors jumping in to build high-speed rail projects. Occasionally you do, but most of the time you don't because they don't see the profit potential there.
And Richard, that's a good point. The government really is the boss with this, but lots of people are going to be paying for these projects who will never take a ride on a high-speed train. Is it worth it? Should taxpayers be paying for this?
It's definitely worth it. If you look at our brothers and sisters on the other side of the pond in Europe, they have committed to high-speed rail, and as a result, they're seeing the impacts. Number one, every $1 billion you spend on transportation, i.e. high-speed rail, you create 34,000 jobs. Number two, you get folks to places quicker, faster, and safer. And beyond that, number three, it's a great way to make sure that America stays the the world's leading economy. I think it's a good ideal all around. Sadly, we can't get Washington politicians to get together and really try to create high-speed rail in America. We're the only developed country in the world without real high-speed rail, and it's about time we get it.
Okay, Gary B., use Amtrak as an example of government-run train systems.
Exactly. You know, here I thought Richard and I had a kind of a kumbaya moment. We were bonding, but that's all fallen by the wayside now with his defense of rail. I'm kind of with Hadley on this, and I will give some examples. I think Richard's completely wrong. If you include subsidies that Amtrak gets, plus the high cost of their ticket, they're 4 times as expensive as airline travel. You look at how many people really want Amtrak. The average person drives 15,000 miles a year. They're on Amtrak 20 miles a year. As far as this whole energy and green stuff, Amtrak alone pollutes more than buses. It's about equal with cars driving inner city. Hold on one second. Hold on. To get back to Hadley's point, if there is a market for it, as Richard says, then it should be developed by private enterprise. That's how the rail system in Europe started, Richard. We can do it again over here.
It is based on government investment.
Okay.
It's based on government investment.
Richard, I'm sorry. We gotta move along. John, do we really need high-speed rail?
In certain places, it would be beneficial, but across the country, absolutely not. We already got high-speed rail. If you want to get from Denver to Las Vegas or Dallas to Phoenix, you take Southwest Airlines. That's a pretty quick service, and it's pretty cheap. The problem we have is we do need infrastructure spending, and you can't trust politicians with money. 37% of the Recovery Act went to unfunded pension liabilities. Up to 40% of the gas tax goes to special projects. You cannot trust politicians with money, and that is the problem with our infrastructure spending.
Gary Key, where do you weigh in on this?
California first said $30 billion, now it's $68 billion, which basically means $100 billion. They've already admitted they're going to need taxpayer subsidies up to $1 billion a year. It always falls on the taxpayer. And if you notice, as said, you don't see private companies jumping all over this because they know it's an absolute money loser. Think the big dig in Massachusetts. It was supposed to cost $3 billion. It ended up $15 billion and 9 years too late. This makes absolutely no sense. It's a great idea. Get you there fast. Go on a train. And I love trains, but a big money loser.
Richard, you want to respond?
Well, here's the thing. When people try to talk about Amtrak, they're talking about an old system. They're not talking about high-speed rail. They're talking about diesel engines in majority across the country besides the Acela line. When we're talking about high-speed rail, we're talking about energy-efficient, faster cabooses that are moving people to and from work and to and from play a lot quicker. It's a great way to prime pump our economy, a great way to get Americans back to work, and on top of that, it allows us to compete with our global partners all across the world who are investing in high-speed rail in record numbers. China's spending 9% of their GDP on infrastructure.
Hold on. Go ahead. Gary B., last word. You have about 20 seconds.
Look, Richard, let's just say he makes great arguments. The question comes down to why does government need to do it?
Well, yeah, is government going to be the boss or not? That's one of the main questions. All right. Thank you, guys. Cashing in just over an hour from now. Eric's on a different debate in the wake of this crash. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Brenda. Some Democrats accused of using the Amtrak train crash to demand more of your tax dollars. Are they going too far? Plus, Hollywood hypocrisy at its worst. Shocking pics of celebrities' manicured lawns in the middle of California's drought. Cashing in. See you at 11:30.
Thanks, Eric. We'll be watching, but up here first. Move over, shrimp on the treadmill. Here comes the salmon, and it's got the pigs squealing. The DC pork is back.